So I heard an interesting question from Glenn Beck to President Trump, something about, are you looking into banning Sharia law in America? And of course, being the Constitution nerd that I am, in other words, this is my belief, you guys. If you're going to vote, sure, listen to the policy. Does it sound like it's good? Does it sound like it's bad? That's great. In the end, though, there has to be this principle of we've agreed upon. These are the parameters within which the governments are allowed to operate. So check the Constitution. So guess what I did? I checked the Constitution. This is the principles I operate by. So first thing that popped into my head, I think just for a brief second, was the First Amendment. Great, okay. Which then the First Amendment really actually, according to the plain text of it, only imposes itself on the federal government. But the 14th Amendment comes in and says, now, okay, Congress shall have the power to, the United States shall have the power to, states, tell states have to, somehow the states have to honor these things nowadays, right? So, I think it's the privileges and immunities language is copied over, and then the due process clause, etc., etc. So anyhow, moving on here. So we could say, okay, freedom of religion. But Sharia law, this is the big deal that makes it different from other religions, as I understand it. Please correct me if I am wrong. Any religion that begins to apply itself as though it has actual physical, civil authority to enforce itself, in other words, to deprive others of life, liberty, or property, right? These are the main enforcement mechanisms of the law. The main categories of enforcement mechanisms is to deprive someone either of their life, their liberty, or their property. This is reserved to the government at all the different levels, and is not reserved to religion at all, right? So if a religion comes along and says, you broke the covenants you made, we're going to take your house away from you. Or you broke the covenants you made, we're going to take your car away from you. Or you broke the covenants you made, we're going to put you in jail. Or we're going to stone you to death, or whatever. That is not the way that the Constitution is set up. And the Constitution, again, we have to consider it's been endorsed by God according to my religion. My religion, the way it endorses it, is whatsoever more or less comes of evil. It's fantastic. In other words, my religion claims literally that the Constitution is inspired, right? Even down to the amendment process and what have you. So we don't dare assume that authority that belongs to the state. And I think this is the bigger deal right here. The Article 4, Section 4 Guarantee Clause. Turn to the Article 4, Section 4 Guarantee Clause. And this popped in my head real fast right after the first minute. The United States shall guarantee to every state a Republican form of government, right? You cannot have a Republican form of government if you are claiming that the enforceable, coercive laws where you can deprive others of life, liberty, or property are given to you by God, and that you cannot legislate them. There is no legislative branch. There's only an enforcement mechanism through those that are authorized to enforce it, and then they judge the violations and carry out the sentences themselves, right? If they are doing that, this is not a Republican form of government, and unfortunately for them, no level of government is allowed to operate in such a manner. There always has to be the Republican form of government, legislative, executive, and judicial. There always has to be that breakup, and it always has to be approved of through the voters one way or another. And so that's the main problem with Sharia law. If it's true, if I understand it correctly, the legislation they claim is done by, this is God's law, so period, it just is God's law, so it's just what we have to go along with. The execution is done by, someone called to do it, and then the judgment and passing of sentence is just, it's all incredibly inconsistent. If that's the case, that's really the way it's run. And from what I understand it is, but basically any religious group that claims to be able to do such things, to create their own little commune, I don't care where it is. Unfortunately, there's a guarantee clause, and all American citizens are supposed to live under a Republican form of government, and no such government is allowed to exist. It's incredibly inconsistent with what the Constitution allows. And yes, in other words, if you grant to somebody else the power to take life, liberty, and property through any other means than those means that are provided for by a Republican form of government, at any level of government, you have whittled away at that guarantee clause, even if it's just in a local community. There is no way that is allowed in the United States Constitution. Again, Article 4, Section 4, the guarantee clause. That's what I got. Thanks for listening. See ya.